Hello everybody, welcome back to the Quick Take and welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. In today's video, I'll be going over Chelsea versus Manchester City, potentially the game of the season. But first, before I continue, I would like to quickly remind you I am running a giveaway with OwnASaber.com where at 15,000 subscribers you could be in with a chance at winning the King of London lightsaber, the perfect saber for every Chelsea fan. 3 participants will be chosen and all you have to do to enter is subscribe to the channel and check the pinned comment down below for more information. And with that, on with the video. First things first, what a game. It's very rare that in a game where Manchester City score 4 goals, the Blue Moons don't walk away with all 3 points. But that's exactly what happened. 4-4 was the final scoreline when all was said and done. Haaland finally netted his first few goals against the Pride of London, but he wasn't the only standout player. Former Manchester City duo Raheem Sterling and Cole Palmer both came into their element, with Conor Gallagher causing problems in the midfield reminiscent of N'Golo Kante's Champions League final performance. It was a highly tactical affair, so let's get into it. Although both teams walked out with a 4-2-3-1 in-game, the actual formations became radically different. First, I'll start with Manchester City. The City backline allows for excellent variability. Both Kyle Walker and Josko Gvardiol are more than capable of playing a role higher up the pitch, with the Englishman at times tucking in beside Rodri, who acts as a lone DM at times to create a box passing lane, used brilliantly by Robert De Zerbi's Brighton. Then that leaves the likes of Doku, Alvarez, Bernardo Silva, Phil Foden to work in between the half spaces and provide an attacking threat just behind Erling Haaland, who currently sits at 13 league goals this season, continuing his insane form from last season. This setup was highly interesting from a Chelsea standpoint, with my focus being on Jeremy Doku. City signed Doku from Stade Rennais for 60 million euros, and so far he's proven his worth. 2 goals and 5 assists in 9 Premier League appearances. He was up against Reece James, who was not long back from another injury, and to the surprise of a few unaware of James's brilliance, he had a relatively quiet game, even picking up a yellow card for diving as desperation began to boil over. City's press was suffocating at times, however Chelsea did well to break through it. Both Haaland and Julian Alvarez kept our defenders busy, with the Argentinian moving up alongside the Norwegian, reminiscent of Hansi Flick's notorious gegenpress, substituting Robert Lewandowski and Thomas Müller in this case. Chelsea set out with a really strong team. Sanchez in goal with a backline of Cucurella, Thiago Silva, Disasi and Reece James. Fernandes joined in the pivot by Caicedo, Gallagher sitting behind the striker with Sterling and Palmer flanking him on either side, and finally Nicholas Jackson making up the 11. In game, James did press up higher to be more in line with Enzo and Caicedo, with the back 3 being dragged towards the left-hand side. The average positioning of both teams show how Manchester City look to target their attacks on the side of Marc Cucurella, potentially identifying him as a weakness in the defense. You can see Haaland, Alvarez and Foden operating in a 3-pronged attack. It kind of reminds me of a chess game really. Having 3 attackers stacked in that way creates great strength and showed in the game. City won a penalty to open up the scoring around 25 minutes in, and in my opinion it could have been avoided. There was a clumsy collision between Reece James and Disasi in the box, which essentially wiped out 2 key defenders. Palmer turned to complain to the ref, whilst in the meantime Kyle Walker whipped in a cross, which was then headed away by Thiago Silva. During all this, there was a tussle between Cucurella and Haaland, some shirt pulling, some tugging, ending with Haaland on the ground and Anthony Taylor pointing towards the spot. In my opinion, it's a rather soft penalty. Haaland was tugging at Cucurella first, and he was never getting the ball, but at the same time, if it was against my team, I'd be the first one to call for a penalty. Chelsea were quick to fire back, with Thiago Silva bringing the scoreline even following a brilliant header from a corner. In doing so, the Brazilian defender became Chelsea's oldest ever goal scorer at 39 years and 51 days old. Take a bow, Thiago Silva. Watching it back, it was a brilliant piece of play. Silva was shielded by his partner in crime, Disasi, before making a darting run across the box unmarked to nod the ball home. Vintage Thiago Silva. Chelsea kept the pressure on Pep Guardiola's men, with the Blues going 2-1 up in the 39th minute following some disastrous defending from Gvardiol, giving Reece James plenty of time to fire across into the box, being turned in by Raheem Sterling. The assist for the assist is created by Cole Palmer, who's really surprised me so far this season. It really feels like we struck oil with him. I'm not really too sure what happened to Gvardiol here, who's been lauded as one of the best young defenders in world football, but at the end of the day, his inability to control a simple ball led to a brilliant goal. I've criticised Raheem Sterling a fair amount this season, and I do still believe he could be a bit more consistent, but I have to take my hat off after that performance. He was unplayable. This was probably his best performance in a Chelsea shirt to date. In fact, this was probably the best performance I've seen from Chelsea as a collective since the Juventus game when Chilwell went off injured and our troubles began to emerge. Without Sterling, I have no doubt City would have walked away from Stamford Bridge with all 3 points. It would have been competitive, but he brought an edge to his game on Sunday night. Unfortunately for Chelsea, City equalised just before the end of the first half, taking the momentum with them. The goal came from what some may describe as a well-worked corner, but I think the goal is more of a result of Chelsea's inexperience and naivety. The ball is played out wide to Bernardo Silva, who looks up into the box before playing the ball and finding the head of Akanji. The first thing I would like to highlight here is Jackson, Caicedo and Cole Palmer. I think Palmer could have done more to close down Bernardo Silva before he made the cross. He slows down and makes a half-hearted jumping effort. Caicedo and Jackson seem to be on Haaland duty, but as the ball wasn't played into the box initially, they both basically drift into no man's land. It's something to be worked on for sure. We are far from the finished article, and I can only hope the coaches are watching back each goal with a fine-tooth comb to identify exactly what needs to be drilled during training. This was frustrating as it was moments before the halftime whistle blew, and it would have been more than ideal to go back to the dressing room 2-1 up. City's third goal came from a very well-worked play. Like a lot of games this season, Chelsea came out for the second half with their heads still in the dressing room, and it cost us a goal. The attack was sprung very quickly with Caicedo filling in for Thiago Silva, who was still up the field. Foden has the ball on the right-hand side, with Alvarez making a breakneck sprint in behind. He receives the ball, cross, Haaland scores. It wasn't the prettiest of finishes, but that doesn't matter. What matters is the build-up. The way City set up in-game allows the players like Foden and Alvarez to make darting runs beginning in the half spaces, making it very difficult to defend against. It's one of the reasons why they're so effective at breaking through low blocks. Their attackers operate in areas not commanded by the defensive pivot, nor the back line, allowing them ample time on the ball along with the opportunity to build up speed when making runs in behind. Following this goal, a fire seemed to be lit under the bellies of the Chelsea players. Both managers made substitutions, Doku for Grealish and Fernandes and James for Mudryk and Gusto. This seemed to pay off, as for the third Chelsea goal, Mudryk arguably played a vital role. The Ukrainian makes a run down the left-hand side, dragging 3 City players towards him before cutting back and playing a pass to Caicedo, who lays it off for Gallagher to shoot. Ederson parries with Jackson putting the ball away to make it all square. I'm a huge fan of this goal because it shows progression on the side of Jackson, who was coming off a hat-trick against Spurs. He keeps moving towards the goal even after the shot, anticipating the rebound. Because of this awareness, he was perfectly positioned to put the ball away. It may seem like a small change, but to me this is a massive improvement. Jackson faced heavy criticism towards the start of the season, including from myself, as a result of his lack of attacking awareness, but after this he has silenced me. I still think we need a world-class striker, and I will be going into further detail in an upcoming video, but as I said, this progression in attacking awareness is really good to see. With 4 minutes remaining of normal time, City scored a very lucky goal stemming from a Thiago Silva deflection following a Rodri shot. It's every defender's nightmare, putting your team behind whilst trying to achieve the complete opposite. For me, I thought this was it. Game, set and match. But we were in for one last twist in the tail. Armando Broja comes on for Caicedo in a last-ditch effort to outnumber the City defence, an effort which, in fact, paid off. It's injury time and Chelsea are attacking in an aggressive 4-1-4-1 shape with Broja playing off to the left of Jackson, who was leading the line. Sterling finds the Albanian, who had made a run into the box from the half space. He takes the ball and, using effective footwork and ball control, he moves himself into a position to be fouled by the reckless challenge of the usually perfect Ruben Diaz. The penalty is awarded and converted brilliantly by Cole Palmer to the spine-tingling soundtrack of Peter Drury.
City's boy is Chelsea's man!
Full time 4-4. That's the game in a nutshell. On another day, the Haaland penalty isn't given. Thiago Silva doesn't stick out his boot and Chelsea walk away with all 3 points. But when you're playing against the likes of Manchester City, there is no room for error. It will be punished. I would just like to go over some finer points before finishing the video analysing what we've learned from this all-timer. Enzo played in his preferred deeper role right alongside Caicedo, which I really think helped combat Manchester City's box passing lanes between the defence and the midfield. 442 did a fantastic video going over the Chelsea-Man City League game, and one of the points they highlighted was how effective Chelsea were at overloading Rodri in the midfield. At times, he was the lone defensive midfielder. City do like to attack with a 4-1-4-1, and as you can see from the player's average positioning, he was completely outnumbered. This was crucial in allowing Chelsea to have as much attacking threat as they did, as Chelsea rely upon the defensive structure from the midfield to remove a lot of the pressure from the back line, which surprisingly panicked during a number of moments in game, most notably for the penalty on Broja, but also for Gusto's chance where Sterling runs into the box, dragging the City defenders out of position, providing Gusto with acres of time and space on the right hand side. The ball fell to him, but he missed his chance, opening up his body too much. The ball goes over the bar. If that's Reece James, that's a goal. He is still young, turning 20 in May, and he's not a natural finisher, but you would expect a professional footballer to finish off that chance handedly. The team worked as one, with each player working and moving to help one another. For example, both Cole Palmer and Conor Gallagher inherited the responsibility of providing assistance to Reece James when dealing with Doku and Gvardiol, who both looked to run with the ball into space. This was excellent to see, as, in my opinion, it shows this team are really starting to gel together, which could arguably be a major factor in our struggles over the past year. There are still a few questions left unanswered to me. Chelsea play really well against the big teams, which is promising, as during Pochettino's time at Spurs, it was the big teams that left them grasping at straws, so to speak, and so to me, this does show an improvement to Pochettino's coaching ability since his time with Tottenham. It doesn't, however, answer the question as to whether or not we're in a better position to deal with the teams that implement a low block. The majority of the teams we will play this season won't be as attacking as Manchester City, as Spurs or Arsenal, so if we do really want to push for top 4, that is an area that draws the most amount of attention for me. That's the only real negative I can find from this result. Perhaps if we persist with the aggressive 4-1-4-1 build-up in the attack, with players working in the half spaces, we may see low block defences come undone, but only time will tell. I think it's now very hard to drop the likes of Conor Gallagher, Raheem Sterling and Cole Palmer, although this now may present an issue for Mudryk concerning playing time, who was starting to come alive before his minor injury and who looked decent off the bench. I have high hopes for the Ukrainian, and I don't want to see all the hard work go to waste. I'm sure Poch will find a suitable outcome. It's what he's paid to do. A fantastic game which will no doubt be a contender for game of the season come next May. Chelsea have Newcastle away on the 25th, with Newcastle dealing with a number of injuries to key players. Perhaps this is the game where we can make our statement win, a cool 4-0. Of course, knowing Chelsea, it'll probably end 1-0 to Newcastle, with all our apparent hard work going down the drain, but I guess we'll see. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It really helps the channel grow, and it would make my day. I've been The Quick Take, and I will catch you on the next one. See you later.